Hello everyone, it's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique, and I am finally back in action and getting back to making some videos. It's been a little bit of a while. Ran into some trouble over with my websites. I wouldn't necessarily call it a hack, but what happened was someone was able to kind of like hijack my presence on Google, so that if like you typed in the search for the Alluring Bead Boutique, it would come up, but where the link was to my website was pointing to a different place. It was pointing to some crazy website over in Japan, and it took me a couple of different attempts to figure out how that was happening and how to get the problem solved. No one's information was at risk or anything. It was just a way to try to steal my web traffic. But I finally got the problem solved. I've done a lot of work. It's taken me several weeks to revamp my websites and to take some steps to determine how where the vulnerability was, so that I could get things straightened out and back on track. And I'm happy to report that I was able to do that finally, and everything's running a lot more smoothly. I did quite a bit of upgrading over there, so make sure you go check out the AlluringBeadBoutique.com. And then also I redid my jewelry store website completely differently and renamed it and everything. It's called Alluring Jewelry, and I'll put you guys some links up. Go over and check out all the work I did. It was really something I've been wanting to do. I just hate that I was forced to do it on someone else's time instead of my own. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is some tubular right angle weave. I've done one basic right angle weave video tutorial, and I'll put a link up to that for you guys. And basically in that I explain to you what a unit is, how it has four sides of equal numbers of beads, and it was really good video because I used bugle beads, and it enables you to see the sides of the units much more clearly than when you use seed beads. You can see how they get a little rounded looking and maybe a little harder to work with. It does take a lot of practice to master this stitch, but one thing you can do is try using two colors of beads on alternate on your sides like this, and it makes it a lot easier to see the actual sides that you'll want to be working with. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to create a little strip here, and on this particular sample my side walls are each two beads wide. So here's the what I'm calling the bottom, are these two orange beads. Here's the top, and then these two beige beads on each side constitute the side walls. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units added here. And what I want to do is I want to form this little strip into a tube. Now to do that, what you're going to do is you will see that you're going to have not only the bottom beads of your next unit, but because we're going to connect to this unit on the other end, we'll have the top beads as well. So we'll only need to pick up our sidewall beads. So if you're not familiar with this stitch, I strongly suggest that you head over and check out my basic video or check some other people's videos here on YouTube. So I'm going to pick up my thread is exiting to the left of this set of beads down here. I'm going to pick up the two beige beads, and I'm going to come from left to right through the two beads on the opposite end. And there is a couple of ways you can do this particular stitch, and I will be showing you both of those. So now I've got those two beads in place. I'm going to pick up two more beige for the other side, and I'm going to come back through the beads on the other end. So I flipped it around a little bit, so now the thread is exiting here on the left of those two beads. I'm just going to come right back through those two beads on the other side, left to right. And then when I pull all of this together, and pull nice and slow, you can actually see the two thread bridges here that we're adding between the last set of beads and the first set of beads and the last set of beads that we were exiting to begin with. And then when you pull it all together, you can see how it creates the unit. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we want to reinforce that work that we just did. So I'm exiting from those two pumpkin colored beads. I want to come back through the 2 beads I added on this side, on the left side. Pull. I want to come back through the 2 pumpkin beads on the other end of my strip. And I'm going to tell you guys, when you're working in right angle weave, don't skip your reinforcing. It is really pretty much vital to how this stitch works out for you. I'm going to come up through those 2 seed beads I added on the right side. And then I'm going to come back through the very first 2 beads I started from. One last time, and this time from right to left. Try not to get in that beige bead, just like that. And then I have completely reinforced that unit by passing through all the beads again. And so now I have this cute little tube. Alright. So now I need to determine which way I want to go. Do I want to grow my tube this way, or do I want to grow it that way? My tail thread is hanging out on this side, on the left. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch over here to these 2 beads on the right, so that I grow away from my tail thread, and it doesn't confuse me later on or get sewn in. So I'm going to come back through those 2 beads on the left, the 2 orange beads across, and then I'm going to come through these 2 beige beads on the right. And this is where I'm going to start growing the length of my tube. So let me pull that through. And that just simply positions my working thread and my tail thread on opposite sides of the beadwork. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a unit on top of the one we're currently exiting. Let me zoom in just a little. So I'm exiting those 2 beige beads. So I'm going to pick up the pumpkin, the beige, and 2 more pumpkin. I'm exiting to the left here of those 2 beads, so I'm going to come back through those 2 beads from the opposite side. And then I'm just going to pull and form my little unit. I'm going to reinforce this unit because, like I said, I try my best not to skip the reinforcing in right angle weave. It just makes the work look better. And I always do each side separate. So I'll come up through the side wall, which is the 2 pumpkin beads here, the top wall, the 2 beige, come back down through the side wall on the right, come down through those 2 pumpkin. Then I'm going to pass right back through the 2 beads I started from on this bottom wall here, which are these beige ones. It's a little bit tricky for me to sew in this direction because I'm left-handed. And now I have created my first unit of the next row. Now I'm going to be creating one above this unit, but I will have the bottom beads here and the side beads here. So I'm going to go up through those side beads once again. So from here, I only have to pick up the top wall and the left side. So in this instance, my top wall are these beige, and my left side are the pumpkin. Let me come in just a fraction. Okay, so now I'm exiting those pumpkin beads. I've picked up my top wall and my left wall, and I'm going to pass through these beads on the bottom wall. But note the direction that I'm sewing. I'm sewing back towards the right, or the first unit that I created on this row. And I'm going to pull that around. And you could have started this with as many units on the base as you wanted. It's up. It's you know, that's a design decision. We're just practicing here. So now I'm exiting back out of these 2 beads at the bottom wall. I got to work my way back around to the left because that's the direction I was sewing in. And to do that, I'm just going to purposefully reinforce this unit I just created. So I'll be coming up through the side, the right side, coming across the top, and back to the left again. I will come back down these 2 beads here on the left, and then I can get into position to go into my next unit just by passing through the beads on the next base unit like that. Pass through the next 2 beige beads. Have I fully reinforced that unit? No, I did not. Had I fully reinforced it, I would have passed back through these 2 beads and sewn all the way back around again. But for the sake of saving a little bit of thread here, I took a little shortcut. But now I'm ready to add my next unit, and once again, you can see that I already have the bottom beads and the side beads. So I just need to pick up the beads on this side first, because this is the direction my thread is exiting. So I want these beads first, the left side, then the top beads. And I will sew down through the 2 beads that constitute the right side of this new unit. Just like that. Then we're going to reinforce, so we'll sew through all beads again, 2 at a time. And if I were going to fully reinforce this, I would sew across these. I'll go ahead and do one just to show you. I would sew back across the top here. Come down the right side. Come back through those bottom beads. Now it's fully reinforced. And then I'm going to sew up through these beads right here. Just like that. So those are the left side beads of my unit I just created, but they're going to be the right side of this next unit. So now I'm coming out of this set of side beads here towards the top. So the first beads I want to pick up are the beige beads that are going to constitute the top of the next unit. Then I will pick up the 2 that constitute the left wall. I'm exiting the top of those, the right side, so I'll come through the 2 beads that are going to make the bottom of this next unit, which are those 2 beige beads. So now we're just going to reinforce by sewing back up through the 2 beads on the right side. Come across the 2 beads on the top of this new unit. Down the side beads on the left. And if I wanted to fully reinforce, I'd go through all of it again. But what I'm going to do for the sake of the length of the video and everything is I'm going to come through these bottom beads from right to left on the next unit of my base. And as I flip this around, you can see that I only have 2 more to create. One here and then one here. So now I'm exiting from the bottom beads of my new unit that I'm going to be working on. So I'll pick up the 2 pumpkin side beads first, and then the 2 beige top beads next. I'm exiting here to the left of the bottom beads, so I'll come down through the right side beads from top to bottom like that. And put those beads into place, and then I'm going to reinforce and get back into position. Come through the bottom beads and up through the left side beads that we added. And now I can create this last unit. Now here's what's different. So on this last unit, we have our right side beads, we have our bottom beads, and we have our left side beads. So literally, we only need to add these 2 beads at the top. So we'll just pick those up. We're coming out of the top of the right side beads, so we'll sew down through the 2 beads on the left side. Just like this. And then come through the 2 beads at the bottom. Up the 2 beads on the right. And then across the 2 beads at the top. And that puts us in position to start our next row. So we would just simply redo everything that we just did for row 2. We're coming out of the bottom beads of this, the top beads actually of the previous unit. So we just pick up 2 side beads for the left side, 2 top beads, and then 2 side beads for the right side, and come back through the beads on the base from the opposite side to form the loop. Reinforce. Come all the way back around until you have sewn through the top, the side, the bottom, and come back up through the side. Then you can simply flip it around. Now we have the bottom and the right side. We're exiting from the top of these 2 beads, so we know we need to pick up the top beads first, which are the beige ones, and the left side beads. And we're going to sew back in the other direction through the bottom beads. And that is what we would do till we get all the way around to the end. And for the last unit, we would just sew the top beads on, just like we just did. And as you can see, as you add more and more rows, the length of your tube just continuously keeps growing. So that the way that this differs from cubic right angle weave is you can see that we're creating a nice tubular rope shape with the beadwork. It's hollow on the inside, and then our our units just build the outer walls further and further in length as we go along. All right, so that is one way of doing tubular right angle weave. All right, so I don't want this to get too long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end this right here. You would just keep going and repeating all the steps row after row until you got this tubular shape as long as you wanted it. And you could even make a infinite rope out of it by, once you got it long enough and come all the way back around, you could connect it to this end. And you wouldn't need a clasp or anything like that if you wanted to make it into a beaded rope, a bracelet, or whatever. All right, so I'll go ahead and stop here. I'll come back on the next video and show you guys an alternative way to do this exact same technique. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope I've made it clear to you why this is called tubular right angle weave as opposed to cubic right angle weave. All right, folks, there will be some corresponding blog posts as usual with all of my for this next section of Bead Weaving 101, which is right angle weave. I've written up an article to go along with my older video, and check that out if you would like to see some close-up pictures of how to do right angle weave with 1 bead, 3 beads, and now we've shown you how to do it with 2 beads. And then I'll come back later and show you guys in the next video another way to do this stitch, and then we're going to tackle cubic right angle weave after that. Alright guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a great day.